Hello, my name is Max Bamfield. Welcome to my talk. Today I'll be discussing the transformed South Australia health policy of recent years. And I'll do it in the context of three former politicians and the closure of the Glenside Mental Hospital. And I'll explain why. In the past there have been three major types of mental illness: the neuroses, the psychoses and the depressions. The neuroses are pains which are not visibly evident and can't be seen on x-rays. So psychologists have argued that they must be caused by the mind, where the mind is transforming emotional problems into physical symptoms in the chest and abdomen via the nervous system, hence the label of neuroses. However, in 1980, I came to the conclusion that the real cause was leaning towards a desk, which compresses everything in the chest and abdomen throughout the day, creating weaknesses. However, sitting up straight didn't solve the problem, so I spent another 18 years doing tens of thousands of experiments on everything, including adding height to my desk and position. And over 18 years, the desk got higher and higher until I was free of pain, and I realised that it's the removal of pressure from the chest that removed that pain. Very subtle, but that's the solution. At that time I realised I'd solved a 2,000-year-old medical mystery and had proven that 100 years of psychiatric theory was wrong. I expected to get paid royalties, $2 from each doctor's appointment or 5% of any desk or desktop manufactured, but nothing happened. I'd now like to talk about my local Member of Parliament, Frances Bedford. I've known her for about 5 to 10 years, taken her information on my research and cost-saving calculations to the government and profits, etc. And in a recent meeting of her members, she said she spent a month trying to get me some sort of help, but she couldn't. So I'd have to deal with these problems myself. So I did my own election campaign against her at the recent election. She was voted out of office and replaced by Olivia Savas, who has been to my home and endorsed my research. The next politician I talk about is Jack Snelling. He's a politician who wanted to introduce the Transformed SA health policy quickly, not in gradual increments. He was first elected into Parliament in 1997, just a year before I invented that standing desk, so he knows all about it, potentially for 22 years. And in recent years I've been sending him information on my research, on the calculations of the cost saving to the government and the profits to business, etc. But he hasn't bothered to contact me. In the meantime, the state government has closed down the Glenside Mental Hospital, which was obviously related to the fact that they no longer getting a third of their clients. They're going to GPs. And they've sold off the hospital and its grounds in prime real estate area. It's given them more millions of dollars, and they've used that money to build a new $2 billion Royal Adelaide Hospital. To save even more money, they've installed standing desks in every corridor and on every floor of that massive new building for every doctor, nurse and office worker to prevent health problems. Well, within 2 weeks of that hospital being opened, Jack Snelling decided to resign from politics. And he said he needed to spend more time with his family. Now, the Labor Party would have had the hundreds of millions of dollars in cost savings to spend on their election campaign. They promised to build new hospitals and science buildings along North Terrace, which they've done. The next politician I'd like to talk about is Rob Lucas, the former Treasurer, who knows all about money and the law. At a recent meeting in the Golden Grove Tavern, speaking to 150 members of the public, and I explained to him what I've just explained to you. And he said, with a bit of a snigger, oh, 20 years ago, copyright doesn't have any value now, probably. But he'd know the law. Copyright applies to 70 years after a person's death. And he's also said, nowadays there are tens of thousands of scientists discovering all sorts of cures all the time, and at the same time, and no one can claim to be first anymore. Now, fortunately, I stopped publishing useful information about health 8 years ago because I became aware of a lot of this cost savings being distributed in various ways without me getting any payment for it. So, I've got a plan, and that is to set up a new research committee with Jack Snelling in charge. And his job is to find the cure for the remaining undetectable pains, the neuroses. There is a short list. And Rob Lucas can put together the names and phone numbers of the tens of thousands of scientists who've all discovered the cures at the same time already. They just haven't published. And Francis Bedford can phone them up and put together a new list with the name of the scientist, the name of the pain that he's cured, and the date, and then maybe recommend Nobel Prizes. In the meantime, Jack Snelling and everyone else will realise there's more hundreds of millions of dollars to be saved every year for the next 2,000 years. So they can use that in their election campaigns, and they'll be promising the voters to build new hospitals and science buildings. But there's no more room in North Terrace, so they'll build them in all the suburbs. Jack Snelling will want to get in on that too. So he'll run a campaign, like others, against the Liberals, so that maybe he'll get into power and become the new Premier of South Australia. And he will become so popular that people will be singing songs about him for centuries. Thank you for watching.